Hey guys, this is Draco coming from the US2 server on Empire 4 Kingdoms. Today I am doing a video on um, build items and the best uses for them for the different types of buildings. So first off, I'm going to cover granary build items, the base food per hour, and the new build item that was introduced with one of the more recent updates, and how best to go about placing them on your different buildings. So, first of all, you're going to want to have your biggest granaries slash food producing buildings have your highest build items, such as like the relic greenhouses. You're going to definitely want your top base food production build items on, period, because they produce a lot of food, and then you work your way down in workload for what you do next. So for example, this is a 100% workload granary. You're going to put a base food on that as well. Essentially, every single food production building, you're going to want to put base food items all the way down to about 23% or so, depending on what your castle, what type of castle you have. Like, if it's for outers or if it's for outposts and such. For a lower workload capacity castle like a 6 food outpost or a super wood, super stone, you're going to want to put more of the base foods further down. Like for this one, I have it going to 17% because of the fact that it is a superfood. Hold on, I gotta switch the build item. One moment. And so you're gonna want, no matter what, every castle you're gonna want to have 15 of the food per hour build items, because those are key to your food production bonuses. So I have 15 of the 200 per hours, or I'm working on getting to 15 of the normal base food per hour or food per hour build items, and 15 of those will give you basically 3,000 more food per hour flat. The base food build items go off of workload and productivity. So the higher the level for your granary and the higher the workload, the more benefit a base food build item will have for that structure. The highest, like I said before, the highest build items should be on your best structures. So the biggest thing to remember is that you gotta go off workload and not level. Although generally the higher level will have the higher workload, but that is not always the case. Sometimes it will be slightly different. So next I'm going to cover the newer build item, the relic build item. It's the same concept as the other build items for granaries and such. However, this one can be added in addition to a normal granary. So you can have, say, the base food build item on like a greenhouse, and then you can also have the relic build item, which has a different value on what it produces. but it also takes different sets of materials, as I will demonstrate in a moment. So it takes materials that currently you can only get from the apprentice blacksmith at this time. However, once fully upgraded, it offers 1,000 food per hour per build item. I don't know if it's only if you can have a maximum of 10 or if it's still the normal of 15 per castle like all of the other build items, but I will definitely make sure I am trying to find that out, just for my knowledge, if not anybody else's. And in order to unlock said build item, you have to do research. You have to research it, and it costs coins, not materials like all the other build item researches. So it's the relic all the way at the bottom, the food production and the food storage. It's expensive. The first one was about 1.5 million, and then it was 7 million, I believe. And now to upgrade it to research the final level, which will unlock up to level 10, it will take 16.4 million coins. And then the food storage build item is 1.4 million almost for the first level. But I'm not going to be doing that myself for quite a while because I don't think it is useful. Okay, next, still on the topic of build items, I'm going to go over the keep build items. They're pretty self-explanatory. You're going to want to have a minimum of the level 10 wall capacity build item in every single castle. Although if you can get higher, that's even better. But above level 10, you have to pay rubies for those. Level 10 is the highest level that you can craft currently. Otherwise, you have to buy them or win them from events. And winning them from events like the Outer Realms or the Kingdom League, and that's very difficult. So, for barracks. There are two different build items that you can put on barracks. There's the recruitment costs build item, which reduces the cost by up to 40% for that castle. There's also the troops per recruitment slot, which is useful if you have a lot of coins and you need to recruit a lot more troops in bulk. However, the most efficient use of your crafting materials would be to craft this build item, the recruitment cost one, because in the Nomad shop with con medals, you can spend 3,100 or 3,200 con medals to buy a level 4 troops per recruitment slot build item without having to spend any crafting materials. The food storage capacity build item, it's good. You should have, if you can, at least level 5 or so, because level 5 just gives 12,000 more, level 8 all the way up to level 8, which gives 25,000 more food storage in the castle. But with the fact that we now have relic greenhouses, it's not as important, but it could still be very important. Treatment speed, that's not something that I have ever really found useful because I never use my hospital, but it's personal preference. If you want to make the treatment speed build item, it is useful for something like wars, but again, personal preference. Recruitment speed, that's pretty self-explanatory. That will go on your drill grounds building. The treatment speed obviously goes on the hospital. Once you hit level 70, you should never be having the wood. You should not have any wood or stone production buildings, so the wood production and the stone production build items are unimportant unless you still have those achievements to get. But again, once you hit level 70, they're not something you should even really focus on. The marketplace build item is very useful once you get your marketplace up to level 8. it is the most useful because it gives you then over 100 carts for resources before you factor in anything that you've done for research or in the King's Market for the cart sizes there. The siege tool resources cost. That's useful if you want to reduce the cost of your siege tools. I would recommend, if you wanted to do that, building maybe 1 or 2 of the structures, because you need to have the wood or stone production buildings in order to use these. I would recommend having 1 to 2 of those at most if you wanted to do those build items, because otherwise you're taking too much space away from food production. Espionage speed, pretty self-explanatory. You can only put these on your taverns. If you have 3 of them at level 10, it's really helpful, because for the foreign lords, recruitment speed time there can take quite a while, or espionage speed if you don't have feathers can take a while. So having 180% espionage speed is really helpful. Hospital space, that's also something that would go on the hospital. But if it had to be between hospital space and treatment speed, I would personally go with the hospital treatment speed, because space isn't that important, because at level 10 you have 600 space in the hospital anyways. The wood storage capacity, wood and stone storage capacity, those go on sawmills and stonemasons, which again, if you're building your account properly and as level 70 and not having any of the wood and stone production buildings, you shouldn't have either of those, because that just takes up public order space. If you're ever in a war where you're going to be getting hit a lot, having this build item in your castles is incredibly helpful, because each one of these build items will reduce the number of units lost in a battle. Like, let's say you have 10,000 defenders in a castle, and you get hit and you win, and your hospital is level 10. Each one of these, if you have, say, 3, you have the maximum number of these, you have 3 in the castle, you'll lose 15% less troops. You lose 5,000 defenders out of your 10,000, but with the 40% total here plus the build items in unit and percentage who survive, 40% of that 5,000 that were killed will survive. They'll be put back on the wall. So 2,000, you'll only in reality lose 2,000 or 3,000 of those troops. 2,000 of the 5,000 you lose will survive and be put back in the castle. So that's a very important build item to have in wars. The Siege Workshop build item, the Siege Tool Production Speed, is very useful for if you're having to build a lot of wooden mantlets or tools. And it increases the speed by 22% as it shows. And that can be incredibly helpful with building wooden mantlets constantly. The defense tool production speed and defense tool research costs are unimportant, because you shouldn't be having to build them, but they do the same thing as the siege ones. So again, also the siege tool resource costs, there are 2 separate types of the siege tool and defense tool resource costs. This one is for woodcutters in the wood production buildings. This one is for stone. So in all reality, you could, in theory, have 50% lower resource costs, but that would involve you having 10 wood and stone buildings. You would need 5 wood and 5 stone to get the 50% discount. So I would not recommend that personally. The Master Builder build item is debatable whether or not it's even worth building or doing any research on ever, because sure, it increases the amount of experience you gain when upgrading buildings. However, that really is unimportant once you hit level 70, because if you're upgrading certain things, you can upgrade and get thousands of XP from achievements. But if you have, say, the Will of Experience, it can help there. The resource cost could be very useful, because it can increase the number of researches you can do in a row, depending on, like, if you have cheap researches in your tower, but 2 of them are, but without a reduction, they're, say, 45,000 apiece of wood and stone, 45,000 of each of those, and both of them need that. You put on the build item that reduces the cost by almost 20%, and that will allow you to do both without having to move any resources. So again, like everything else except basically the food build item and the troops on the wall, most everything else is personal preference. However, I would also recommend, if you have the 1,500 rubies per castle to put in a drill ground, do so, because the recruitment speed is very useful. The 110% faster recruitment speed plus gotta find my drill ground. One moment. I have to find my drill ground. Ah, there it is. Nope. There it is. So, level 1 drill ground just gives 25% faster recruitment speed. So, level 5 gives 125% recruitment speed bonus. Out of the level 10 build item, that's 235% faster recruitment, which is very useful in many situations. Which is just very useful in general. So if you have the 1,500 rubies to put one of those in the castle, I would highly recommend doing so. And then that's about everything that I have for build items, for the general overview on them. And then if there's anything that people would like me to do a video on in the future, leave a comment or message me if you have me online or any other part in the game, and that I am going to wrap up this video. Thank you guys for watching, and like I said, if you guys have any further comments or questions for me, feel free to leave a comment or message me in game. See you next time.